So first of all, good evening, and thank you all for joining us for Paints It Fun with UMass. My name is Megan Hoyo, and I'm the Director of Alumni and University Programs here at UMass and a proud alumna from the class of 2007. Quick note before we get into tonight's event. Tonight's event is recorded. By participating, you are given consent to being part of this recorded session. Now with that out of the way, I'm very happy to introduce Erin Lee, owner and principal artist of Paints It Fun, who will be leading us on painting a beautiful fall foliage around the library. Erin?
Hi there. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for having me again. I'm excited to be here. Welcome, everyone. Don't know if you've painted like this before or not. Either way, I'll get you covered. So a couple of little housekeeping things. You guys are all on mute because we have too many people talking. It'll get a little crazy. So if you have any kind of questions whatsoever, go down to the bottom of the screen and click the chat, this little chat bar icon at the bottom. Chat window will open up, type in your questions, and Megan is going to be watching all of that and will yell at me or ask me the questions that you may have, okay? I'm happy to answer any questions as we're going. Don't feel like you're interrupting me, you're not. I've done this many, many, many times, and I actually like interacting with you guys. So you guys know, like she said, my name is Erin. I'm the owner, founder, and principal artist of Paints It Fun. I've been painting my whole life. I went to school for it. I have a degree in it. I also teach it. I'm a middle school teacher. Woohoo, go teaching in COVID. Anyway, so it's nice to get back to painting with you guys. Sorry, my screen looks like it was wobbling there for a minute. We are recording. So if for whatever reason we have technical issues, I'll continue recording and continue painting, and we'll get it out to you. That way, also, if I go too fast, which I shouldn't, but some people like to take their time, you can always come back and rewind it and re-record it and watch all the details again later, okay? So what do we need for tonight? Obviously, we need a canvas to paint on. You're gonna need, or anything really to paint on. You can paint on wood if you wanted to, and some brushes. Now I've got a few here. Really, you only need 3. And I will show you the 3 here. Okay, so big, medium, and little. I call them big daddy, medium mommy, bitty baby. Again, I've been teaching for a long time, and it's just easier to refer to them as that. But basically, it's a number 10 flat, a number 6 round. Okay, it's kind of pointy, and then a little detail brush. This is a number 1 round brush for the details. I also, if you have an older brush that's kind of frayed, if you look at this one, there you go. Okay. Look at this one, it's kind of frayed out. This is actually also a number 6 round. It's just old, if you notice, it's kind of messy. This makes for a really good trees because we're gonna be channeling our inner Bob Ross and we're gonna do happy little trees. So that's what this brush is really good for. So if you have an old one, or we can even brush it out like this, the better one, the newer one, and make it really fan out, but we'll do that later. All right, so those are what you're gonna need. I don't know what this extra one is. For brushes, you're gonna need a napkin to dry your brushes off on, okay, or an old t-shirt or something. I also need you to have a glass of water for your brushes, not to drink, although you can have water to drink too if you want. And then you need a slick surface to have your paints on. This is actual palette that you can buy at the store. You can use a piece of glass, you can use you can even use a regular plate and then wash your acrylic off. And it should be fine when you run it through the dishwasher, or a paper plate, that'll work too. So colors, what colors do we need? These are the colors that I started with. So this is a nice pretty sky blue, technically called cobalt blue, and white. I've got yellow because I'm going to be mixing some trees, right? Some fall foliage, yellow and orange and red, right? So I wanted some yellow. Over here, I've got my red. I don't have orange, but if you have orange, you can use it. Green. Right, just a standard green. And then this is a reddish brown. That's the color of your library, okay? So if you don't have a reddish brown, you can make it. Just grab a brown, add a little bit of red to it, and you'll get the brick color of the building. And we can do that when we get there. So again, our colors, red, yellow, blue, right? The primaries, okay? Then you're gonna need white to mix it up. Green, and that brown or reddish brown, whatever you have, okay? All right, so I'll give you guys a minute or two to kind of pull those paints out. and get them on your palette. My paintbrush over here. Actually, I'm going to move this way. I hope you guys are okay with that. I'm better off on this side. I've just been painting so much, I'm used to having my sample over there. All right, so we're going to start off with the biggest brush, and we're pretty much going to go from biggest to smallest throughout the night. We will have a break in the middle for once the background is dry. We need to let the paint dry. So if you have a hair dryer around or handy, that'll come in handy too, so you don't have to wait as long. So type A personalities, I'm sure there's some of you out there. I'm joking with you because I am one. We like to know exactly what's going to happen. What's the itinerary? How much percentages of color, all of that good stuff. So itinerary, we're going to start with the background, which is all blue, believe it or not, different shades of blue. Then that's got to dry. Once we're done with that, then we're going to do the building. And then after that, we're going to do all of the trees and bushes and grass. Then at the end of that, we're going to add just a little bit of blue streaks across our reflection. Okay, so that's kind of the itinerary for the evening. So go ahead and grab your big daddy brush, the big flat number 10 that you have, or whatever you have. And we're going to do, again, the background. It's going to start off with my blue, for my blue sky, my really pretty cobalt blue. And as I get going, I'm going to start to add a little bit of white to it. Okay, and then a little bit more white and more white and more white as I come down. And then I'm going to go back and do more blue, more blue, more blue. So it's going to have sort of an ombre effect from darker blue, lighter blue, right back down to the darker blue. Okay, so just kind of push your paint on your canvas any which way. You can do up and down, you can do side to side, you can do crisscross. It doesn't really matter how you put the paint down. This here that I did really long left to right brush strokes. Okay, if you like this effect, nice smooth. It was the photo that Megan gave to me was really, really crystal clear day. No, not a cloud in the sky. So that's what I painted. If you want to add clouds, you can. One thing I'm also going to have you do, as you guys are painting, your canvas goes right around the wood stretchers. So I want your paint to also go around your wood stretchers. Oh, there's the painting. There's the photo. There you go. That's the photo that she gave to me. So I created the painting from it. All right, so always get your edges. So anytime you get to the edge, take your paint right around it. Both sides, top, and eventually the bottom too. Okay? I think I'm gonna add a little bit of white as we go here. So I'm just putting a little bit of white on my brush. I grabbed some blue and I went over here, grabbed some white. I'm not gonna do all of the blue into all of the white, but I'll mix it sort of in between. And I'm gonna start pushing that into my sky. And you're gonna go through, load your brush very often. Don't be afraid of the paint. Now, if you think you have too much paint in an area, for example, you can do this. Pull the paint down and then go back in and smooth it out. You can do that to get more of an even application of paint if you want. Depends on how much paint you have on your brush when you go. But I'm slowly going to be adding more white and more white and more white until I get to a little bit below center. I'm thinking, think of this in thirds. So the bottom third is going to be water, and then the top 2/3 are going to be sky. Okay, so it's going to go from that darker blue. Oops, I need some more white. To that lighter blue before it turns back into a darker blue, into the reflection of the waters. And again, don't forget your sides, your edges. I hope you guys have something to munch on, something to drink, maybe some really cool music going on in the background. This is a time to relax and just have fun. I don't know if you know this, but the paint and sip industry, which is what this business is technically part of, the sip part came in. There was a couple, there was a woman down in Louisiana, and she invited several friends over. One was an artist and one was a wine connoisseur. So she one night decided to have both of them over at the same time. And then she realized as she did it, and her friend was doing the art classes while they were enjoying wine, that this could be a really fun industry to create. So she did. And that was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago? Been a while, but they realized that adults typically don't have a lot of art experience. Last time most of us painted was when we were 3 or maybe 3rd grade at the latest, right? Elementary school. But so many people had so much fun. And the wine helped to relax and chill us out. So we got out of our logical adult thinking brain and just got into, pushing paint, having fun, like we did when we were kids. So that's how the industry is born. Like I said, don't forget your edges. There we go. Okay, so the top 2/3, you're going to go from dark to light. And again, if you want it to blend a little better, you kind of scrub it up and down and then go back and forth with your texture to kind of blend it out nicely. Does it look better? A little bit. So I don't know if you guys notice that I tend to look at the camera to see what my painting looks like, because it's going to look different sitting 6 inches from it than it does, several feet away from you. When you are hanging this on the wall, I'm not a trash can, just kidding. It's going to be several feet away from you. So you want to get an idea of what it looks like from several feet away. And I'm doing it by looking in the camera because it minimizes it. You guys can do it by either taking a step back, 25 feet back, or take a picture with your smartphone. It'll shrink it down and you'll see it kind of like what I'm seeing now on the camera. Too much blue there. Yeah, a little better. All right, now I'm going to start to get a little darker as I go. So less white and a little bit more blue. Again, this is just our base coat. We're going to obviously be putting everything else on top of this. And our water will give it that water's reflection a little later. That's the very end. Oh, there she goes. I have a puppy, you guys. She's 1.5 years. So if you hear her, I'm sorry. She's pretty good, but she's a dog. She has her moments. I'm just kind of going over getting my canvas nice and smooth with all of my colors and my blends. Okay, so again, it's kind of like an ombre where it goes from dark to light and then it goes back to dark, but the light part is a little lower than center Okay, it's not quite in the middle, it's a little below middle. I'm just gonna get my sides. My ombre on the side is also, or my color on the side is also that ombre where it goes from darker to lighter. So that way when you're, if it's hung on a wall in a hallway, let's say, and you're coming down the hallway, you'll see a nice finished edge and it'll look like it's almost part of the front of the canvas. So here I'll show you what the difference is, because that one I didn't do. So if you're coming down the hallway and you sort of see the edge, it just wraps right around. It doesn't stop your attention, right? You're gonna look at the front of it. Whereas if you didn't finish it, it looks like that coming down the hallway, and it is kind of distracting, right? So you can either paint it exactly the same color as what we just did, or you can frame it, of course, but if you don't want to frame it, you can paint it. The other thing you can do if you wanted is to paint the edges black. It's not as easy to do, trying to get it nice and exact. So this is the easiest, simplest, most effective, quickest way to get a finished look, polished look, is to paint your edges. I'm gonna do this side too. Forgot to do the other one, so I'll do this one. Hopefully you guys can't hear the TV in the other room. I actually put it on for the dog. Okay, so this is step one. And this is where we're now gonna have our break. So gotta watch paint dry, unfortunately, before we can get on to this next step. So a couple of things. We're gonna have probably about a good 10-minute, maybe 15-minute break. And what I'm gonna suggest you guys do is grab your hair dryer and hit it with a hair dryer. Okay, you can get pretty close to the canvas with your hot hair dryer. And that way you're for sure gonna be nice and dry before we start painting the building, okay? Now, one thing you're gonna need for the building is another paintbrush. You need two paintbrushes. One you're gonna rest your hand on, okay? And you're gonna use for stability. And the other one you're gonna paint with, but I'll explain that later. So just make sure you have two long-handled paintbrushes or two long pencils, or maybe a ruler, something stiff that you can hold on to, okay? To do this with, okay? I'll show you how to do that again later, but I just want to make sure that while during the break, go grab a long handled brush or stick or something like that, okay? I was just thinking maybe we could. All right, so if any of you are not done yet, please text me in the chat bar and let me know if we need any more time. All right. More time, please. Okay, that's fine. Like I said, I wanted to double check. While we're waiting, I'm gonna show you guys just a couple little things. And you're welcome. I think it was Megan's idea. Yay, the kids are there. I can't wait to see their paintings too. How old are your kids? I've taught kids 5 and 6. I was gonna say I've taught kids as young as 2, as old as 92. So I've taught everybody. Cool. Hopefully they'll paint with us. And guys, you don't have to paint what we're painting if you don't want to. But all right. So while we're waiting, I'm going to show you a couple of things. One was how to wash your brushes. The proper way to wash is to put your paintbrush, obviously in the water, in the can or cup, and paint the bottom of the cup. You can't just swish it. You really have to push acrylic paint out of the bristles. Watercolor paints, you can, in watercolor brushes, you can usually swish, but with acrylics, you can't. It's funny because when I was teaching in-person classes before COVID, I've been doing this for years now, but I had this poor woman. Of course, we do it at restaurants, so a lot of them, we do it at night, so a lot of them will have something to drink. Well, this poor woman had a lot to drink, unfortunately. And I said to her to wash your brush, paint the bottom of the can. And I kid you not, this woman paints the bottom of the can. So I've got a couple of cans out in the garage, that metal cans that I use that have paint at the bottom of them. So now I have to tell everybody, put it in the water and paint the bottom of the can. And it's just a funny story that I always think about every time I give those little directions. All right, so wash the brush really good and dry it off on your napkin and then put it to the side. Anytime you store brushes, you want to store them face up. You never want to store them like this. Over time, they will start to bend and then you'll get a ruined paintbrush. So you want to keep your paintbrushes good. All right, my little ones there.
Erin, can you show them one more time how you wash the paintbrush?
Oh, sure. Yep. So you just put it in the cup, whatever cup it's in, and you just put it in, but you paint. I go in a circular fashion, but I just paint the bottom of the can inside the water. Okay. And then you just dry it off. And if you are on the napkin and you see color on your napkin, go back and do it again. But you got to really push the paintbrush against the bottom of the can or cup. No swishing, it won't work. All right. And then store your paintbrushes right side up. Okay. And again, while we're waiting for it to dry, if you guys want to hit it with a hairdryer, that'll help get us going a little quickly. I wanted to show you really quickly also the top of our building is like a upper lip, a little mountain. Okay. So I wanted to just show you as we're going to be painting this, the overall design goes up a little bit and then it goes back down. And that is this line up here, this little divot in the middle, architectural detail, and then back down on the other side, okay? And it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical this way. This could be a little shorter, okay? And then our lines are gonna come down. But I just wanted to show you this upper lip. It's like up, down. And that's what we're gonna do when we draw it, okay? I don't wanna confuse you. There we go. All right. I typically do this with that Big Daddy brush, that big flat one. But if you're more comfortable with a different brush, go for it. You don't have to ask permission. And I guess we'll wait a couple more minutes. So Jensen and Megan, let me know when you're ready. How about two more minutes? So 8:40, we'll get on with it. You're ready now? Just slow. No, it's okay, Megan. Don't worry. Some people are quick, some are slow, and I know I'm more fast than most people. That's just my style. So that's why it's always fun in person, because then I can really gauge how fast you guys are going or how slow I need to go, or any little extra things. It's hard. I'm such a person. Oh my goodness, Megan, you got 7 painting. That's awesome. Sipping lots. Yay. Can't wait to see your picture at the end, because you guys are going to be sharing, because I want to see. That's the one thing I miss. Another thing I miss about being in person. Party. Yeah, right? Party at Megan's house. You've done one in person and thought they were really fast. Do you do any other virtual paint and sips? I do them all the time. So during the very beginning of COVID, I actually went online every single day and did a free video. So if you really like doing this, you can go over to my Facebook page on Paint Sip Fun and see all of the videos that we did. I think there's 70 up there now. I did it to keep myself sane. But anyway, but yeah, I do virtual paint and sips. I don't have a lot of public ones. Most of them are private. So if you want to do a private party, I'm happy to do that with you. One of these days, I'll get back to doing some public ones though, because those are fun too. All right, so this is our general shape, like I said, and you're gonna do it with your Big Daddy brush, your flat brush, okay? Or a small brush that's pointed, like that one, right? Your small detail brush. So how I do this is I'm gonna hold my brush on the angle. I'm gonna go up on the angle, pull down, up on an angle, pull down. So I'm kind of going sideways. I'm not holding it. If you see the brush, the angle of the tip of the brush is what I'm using right along that edge. So that when I get to this corner, it's a perpendicular corner. I'll pull it down, go back up, come down. Okay, so that's how I'm doing the top of the building. Once I get the top, I'm literally gonna just drag straight down. Now, that being said, this is where you guys need to, this is a little technical, so let me just put this to the side here. I want you to grab another brush, straight edge, okay? So what we're gonna do is you're gonna hook your hand on the side and you're gonna hold it nice and stiff, and this way I'm gonna run it all the way down. If you notice, the end of my brush always stays the exact same distance away from the edge of my canvas, right? So that's how I'm gonna get a perfectly straight line going up and down. By using this, hooking your finger on the edge of the canvas, okay? I'm running it right down the side of the frame and I'm holding my brush really stiff so it doesn't move, okay? So you might wanna practice doing that right now just to get a feel for it. Because along with this, you're gonna have this brush, you're gonna hook your hand on it, right? So you hold the brush, you hook your hand on this end, and you're gonna be nice and stiff. So we're kind of creating our own, like, kind of a compass, kind of a tool sort of a thing, right? Hook it on the end of the, hook it over here, hook it here, make sure that your brush is touching, and you're gonna hold it nice and stiff, and this is how you're gonna drag, and that's how we're gonna get all of our straight lines, okay? We don't need to measure, we're just gonna hold the brush wherever we're gonna need it, hold it tight, and run our left hand down the side of our canvas. Okay, I'm gonna stop and make sure you guys understand this. Please message me if you don't, okay? Okay, hopefully you guys are good. I'll stop again once I get the first set of lines down. I'll come back and see if you guys have any more questions. All right, so first let's start with that little mountain, that M shape, the upper lip kind of shape. Okay, so grab your brush, your Big Daddy. We're gonna make this color. So this color is that reddish brown, okay, with a little bit of white, not a lot, just a little bit. All right, so for my type A personalities, I'd say 5% white, maybe 10, that's a little too light. Put too much white in there. Okay, that's a little better, okay. So it's not the darkest color. It's a brick red, all right? So I'm gonna make sure that my paintbrush is nice and flat, so I'm gonna kind of reshape the brush by pushing it into its shape again, right? And I'm going to come over here, and this is where I'm gonna do that M. I'm gonna hold it on an angle, right? I'm not flat like this. I'm gonna go the direction of the top of the brush, and it's gonna go up on an angle, come down just a smidge, up on an angle again, so it looks like kind of an upper lip. Okay, like that. Oops. Okay. Now, if you did it with a different brush, you can do it with, more of a pointed brush, that's fine. But this is where you now want to Load your brush with your brick color. All right, so we're gonna get a decent amount of paint, not overload it, but we're gonna get a decent amount of paint because this is where we're gonna do our first straight line down. Okay, so I don't know if you can see how much paint I have. I'm not overloading, but I'm filling the bristles pretty good. Okay, all right, so now, again, hook your hand to the left here so I can go up and down. Hold your brush nice and stiff, tight. You're going to also then put this down. Hold it tight against this. So you're going to grip both this against this, and we're going to hold it nice and stiff, okay? Wherever it ends up needing to be. So mine needs to be right here, and I'm going to go straight down. Hold it really, 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 really stiff. It's okay if you run out of paint. Keep on trucking all the way down. Now when you get to the bottom, you're just going to have to kind of fudge it a little bit. Come up a little bit. Okay? All right, that's the hardest part of this whole painting is getting a straight line. So I'm going to wait a minute or two, see how you guys are doing. Give me some feedback. Tell me how you're doing. Is that straight line okay for you? Good, good. Desiree, good. Thank you. So now you can do that all the way, fill up the whole building. Okay, now that you did one line, since I'm not getting any feedback, I'm guessing you guys are doing good. It's hard as a lefty. Yeah. Let's see. So as a lefty, I would get a longer brush, a much longer brush that you can, and hook it on this side. You should be able to, depends on how big your canvas is, but if you have a long enough brush, you should be able to do it from this side also. Okay, hang on, let me see if I can get it. Okay, hook it here, hold it, and then nice and stiff, hold it while you're pushing, nice and stiff, holding the two together so they don't move. Okay, so yeah, you should be able to do it from the other way. Okay. I'm painting my own arm. All right, so you guys are all now going to be doing this the entire time, right? So now that we have our edges, we're going to fill in the rest of it. Just go up and down. The hardest part of the edges, okay? Now it's just literally coloring inside the lines. Once you get both edges done, go ahead and fill it in with this nice brick color. Now, we're going to do the same technique with this other brush with the baby brush to get the dark windows of our building. But first, let's start with this. It's best if you paint this vertically up and down. It'll give the illusion of the tall architecture, the way the bricks were laid. Especially the windows, it adds to the height of the windows. Certain things are painted in certain ways to give sort of a texture to it. Like the water, we're gonna go horizontal, left, right. Our trees, we're gonna dot. The building, like I said, we're going up and down. And if it's not completely covered in the water, that's okay. You know, if you have some blue popping through down there, that's fine. Your water is going to be, like I said, about a third of the way up. And we're going to have bushes and trees and whatnot in between. Like this corner of the building, I don't think we even see. But that's all right. Look at that, you guys actually can draw a straight line now. That's the biggest thing. I have so many people, I can't even draw a straight line. Well, now you can. There's your trick. And I'm gonna make this a little bit longer, I think. Now that I'm looking at it, I saw it on the computer. I'm gonna make this a little bit further. There we go, because it's more of a square. So, that's more of the proportions. There we go, a little better. Why didn't you guys tell me I was off? Could go even further. And I'm trying to get the right proportion because it's really almost, if you look at it from the sky, I think the building is more of a square, like a perfect square, right? Like this side is the same size as that side. Yeah, that's what I thought. I've only been up to campus a few times. There we go. That's a little better. All right. So make sure you step back, get a new perspective of your building, just like I did, okay? I want you to take a picture of it with your smartphone, look at it, and make sure that it has the right proportions, all right? Like I drew mine and just realized my side was way too short. My side needed to be visually about the same size as the one on the left. So be sure yours is done more accurately. Sorry, I just hit the wrong color on my paintbrush. I don't think we're gonna really see that side anyway. No, we don't. All right, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay. So now comes the tedious part. You're gonna do the same exact thing with this brush, right? Our ruler right down the side. This time we're doing it with the baby brush, okay? We're taking that that reddish brown right out of the bottle. So this color without white in it, okay? So right there, that color right out of the bottle. We're going to do, if you have room, you're gonna do 7 lines. If you can't do 7, it's okay. It's just the idea of the building. All right, so again, hook it over, hold it stiff, make sure you're hooking on the edge, then come and hook your brush onto it. We're gonna start, I don't know what size canvas you guys are on. I'll just cook myself. For me, I'm on a 16 by 20 canvas, so I'm gonna go about 1 finger width down, okay? Couple of things before we start. The top of your windows are they start on a line that is parallel to the roof line, okay? So that same M shape that we did, right? The windows are gonna start and go up and be parallel to, the top of the windows are parallel to the top of the building. So when you're drawing them and you're starting, make sure that the next one is in that invisible line that is parallel to the top of the roof, okay? A little bit of math for you guys, okay? All right, so again, hook your finger on the side, hold your ruler or your steady brush, put your baby brush on it, and I'm gonna leave about 1 finger width from the top, and I'm gonna drag straight down. If you run out of paint, we can always come back, not a big deal, all right? Like I just ran out, so now I'm gonna come back in. Again, holding it really tight to this and holding this really tight to the side. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. It's kind of hard to see, okay? All right, now that I did one, are you painting in black or red? This is the brownish red, so it's not black. Okay, I don't have any black in this painting, so it's a dark, the windows are more of a dark brown. Okay, you're welcome. So this was the brown, reddish brown with white. These windows are straight up reddish brown. If they're not, if it's, depends on your coloring. If you put a lot of white in here, you might want to add, or do just straight up brown here. If you didn't do enough white here, you may want to add a little black. So just a shade darker, how's that? I don't mean to complicate it. You can add a little bit of darker brown in there to make it, I know you can't really see it from there, that's why I pulled the canvas, but just make the same color just a little darker. So either add a little bit of black, add a little bit of brown if you need it to be darker than what you already did, okay? And I'm going to now do my second window, my second long set of windows, okay? I'm gonna leave the same amount of space to make this look real for you. You want to make sure you have the same spacing between the windows and be consistent all the way through. Okay, so if you use too much paint on the base of the building, you can use your hairdryer and dry it off really fast. Is that what you're saying, or too much of the brown color, Desiree? The lighter color. You use too much, so it's like really, really wet. Then go ahead and grab your hairdryer and hit it with your hairdryer. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that my next set of windows are the same spacing. So what I have here, it's almost, for me, it's almost a finger width, just a hair shorter. So that's what I'm going to do here for my next one. And I'm going to make sure that as I start my next set of windows, it's going to be on that same invisible parallel line to the top of the building. Okay. So for me, it's going to be about there, I think. Again, hold it really, really stiff, really, really tight. Both brushes. All right. So that's the two lines down. Okay. I know it's really hard to see from back there because they're kind of really close to each other in value. Again, I'm going to do. So it's more important to have the right spacing between the windows than it is to have the right number of windows, if that makes sense. So if you can only get 6 lines in here, that's all right. As long as they're the same distance apart, that's what your eye and your brain is going to go, oh, that's the building.
Any further help for the lefties?
For the lefties, making a straight line. So same thing, hold it the opposite way. So is this, yeah, Megan, you were my lefty from before, right? I don't remember. Okay, so if you're, sorry about the dog, there we go. If you're lefty, do it from the other side of your canvas. You just need a longer steady brush, okay? And again, hook your hand on the edge, and you're gonna be painting, same thing, same exact, straight down, okay? So no matter whether you're righty or lefty, if you're, Raina, come here, honey. If you're a lefty, you're gonna hold your steady brush on the right-hand side, so your painting brush can be on the left hand. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully. All right. So Megan, hopefully that answered it for you. Come here, Raina. Hey, shh, come here. Come here. What's this? But mommy, I heard a noise outside. I gotta yell. Crazy dog. Come here, honey. All right. And make sure your canvas isn't moving. Again, I'm gonna, that invisible parallel line, I gotta start there. I gotta make sure it's the same width from the other window. This is the most stressful, guys. Okay, so once you get through this, you'll be fine. Hopefully I gave you some tricks to get some straight lines going. I'm right about there. All right. do it again. And just keep going right up the side. And you're going to do the same thing down the other side. And if it's okay if one side, the windows are a little closer to each other than the other. If that's what it has to be. This is also a really good trick. This extra little brush that I told you to pick up, the one that's in my left hand. If something is wet or you don't want to smudge something, that's what we use. Us artists use an extra little brush to lean on to be able to go in and paint something so that we don't touch whatever is there. Okay. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that's a little trick we use. And don't forget that a lot of this building right here is going to be covered with trees. So you don't have to be perfect. In fact, a painting is never really perfect, this kind of a painting. And that's okay. That kind of lends to its beauty. It's more kind of impressionistic, I guess, right? Less realistic. It's the idea of it. Oh, there we go. You're going to enjoy the rest of this painting because it's all a bunch of dots. Okay, so just so you guys can see how imperfect my lines are. Okay. They're not all the same thickness. I tried to keep them as close as I could to the same distance from each other. But if you notice, I only have 6. That's it. That's all I'm going to try and fit. Okay. I'm going to come over here now and do the other side. Oh, I ended up green paint on that. How did I do that? Oh well. Come back and get it. That's going to be under the tree anyway. We'll be good. So now this side, the top of our windows are going to be parallel to the top of this building, right? So I have to just kind of keep that in mind. And they're going to be about the same distance as the other windows if you drew your M pretty evenly at the top. If it's uneven, it might be a little closer together. I'm sure this is going to get hidden by our trees. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. It's kind of boring watching me draw lines that you can barely see, but hopefully you guys are doing all right. Whoops. That would be my building with the windows in it. All right. I just realized half of my building wasn't painted down here, so I'm just painting it in. Just a little bit, the edge. Which actually I don't need to now that I think about it, because the other side you can't even see it in the window and the water. Oh well. So Megan, did that trick work for you to switch hands? Being a lefty, doing it from the other side? I just free-handed it. Cool, that works too. Oh yay, you're in California. That's awesome. This a little bigger. I'm gonna make this a pop out. There we go. That would be fun to know how many people are in at each camera, at each house or wherever you are, each building. We'll get to know at the end when we do the big group shot. We're gonna have all you guys hold your canvases up to the camera, and if there's a whole bunch of you, you're gonna have to stand pretty far back so we can see everybody's canvases. That'll make for a really cool shot. Really good. Okay, so I want to check in 2 of you for Michael. That's good. Just want to check in with you guys and see how you're doing with your windows. I guess no news is good news, huh? If you want to, William, go for it. So I don't know if you guys, if the recording is picking up the text messages, but one of them says, legend has it that bricks fell out the building back in the 80s. Should we paint them? If you want to put a hole inside of the building. So funny story, when I'm doing these kind of events in person, I would say 80% of the men that are painting with me, now mind you, I'm going to say 95% of all of my painters are women. So very small amount are men that usually get dragged by their girlfriends. Some of them come on their own, but 80% of the men that I've seen always change something about the picture. So one time we were doing, so that's why I said, if you want to do falling bricks, that would be great. One time I did a really cool beach scene. Okay. So it was as if you're looking down at the sand and the water is coming up. So you'll see water at the top of the painting, sand at the bottom, and you had a starfish, I think a sand dollar or something else. So you see a couple things on the beach. So we did the blue at the top, the beige at the bottom. Well, wouldn't you know it, we had him turn it into, you put the Death Star in the sky. You put the what are those big sand creatures? They're not creatures. They're robot shape. They kind of look like camels, but they're people that are in them. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of it, what it's called. But anyway, so he did those like that. He made it the sand and the Death Star. And then another one did R2-D2. Another one did Batman. It was really, it's funny. So, oh my God, you do remember the bricks falling? That's not good. We should look that one up. All right, since I'm not really seeing anybody that's needing help, I'm guessing you guys are okay. We all good? Anybody need more time to do the windows? I have one more little detail on the window, but I don't want to do that until I know you guys are ready. So if I don't have anybody say anything, then I know we're ready. Okay. All right, so here's the photo, right? If you look closely, it's sort of like a off-white set of bricks that go across. I'm sure that's one of the floors up there. So we're gonna put those in. That is done inside the windows, okay? So not on the brick. If you look closely at it, they're inside the windows. All right, now, another thing to point out with these little lines, first of all, it's not bright white. That'll look totally wrong if you try to do that here. It's that same brick color with white in it, okay? So it's a lot of white and a little bit of that brick color. So the same color that we've been working with, it's just gonna have more white. Now, this line of dots that we're about to do is the same, and it's parallel again with the top of the building, okay? So that's what makes it look accurate. So grab your reddish brown brick color, grab some white. We're gonna make a real pale brick color. Okay, so my type A's, let's see, if I do, I don't know, 15% brown, maybe? Maybe 20% brown, 80% white, ballpark-ish. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay. So I know it's going to be, so it's about 1, 2, 3, maybe a little less than a third, right? And the original, let's see, 2, 3, 4, really more like a fifth, 1/5. Okay, it's pretty close to the top. Whereas this building is not as accurate. I did it about a third of the way down. Again, it's just kind of like the idea of the building, all right? So on this building, I probably would do it by eye. I'd probably do it right about here. And I'm just gonna do a little rectangle, sort of, okay? Again, use your thing, because this is wet, I just realized. Okay, rest your hand on this. and make sure this row of dots on the windows is parallel. So you can even put your resting brush on the edge here and make sure that it's parallel. See how it's parallel to the roof line there? And that's where I'm going to put my little dots. Okay. My little, actually it's a square technically. Okay. But it's going up on that same angle as the roof. There we go. If this were to keep going up, it would go to there. And then this one would go down. Okay. And that's how you get that row, whatever that is, that architectural detail in the window high up on the building. I'm just going to come back and make it look more like a rectangle or rather than a perfect little polka dot. All right. It almost looks like polka dots in there. If it's too bright, like I would think it's a little brighter, I want it a little darker, you can come back and add a slightly darker shade of this brick color, pale brick color. Let's go right on top of it, which is a little better. There we go. All right. So we need our building to be dry before we can do our trees, okay? So I want you again to hit it with a hair dryer. What time do we have? 9:15. Good. We're doing good. So I'm gonna mute this out so you guys don't get blinded or deaf by my hair dryer. And then I want you guys also to go ahead and dry your building so that we can do our trees on top, okay? So I'm gonna mute you out. So this building here is much bigger than that one, I just realized, but that's okay. So I think what I'm going to do for this one here, just because if I cut this off here, it's not going to be in proportion to me. I mean, I can, but I think I'm going to put my water down here a little further down to kind of make it look tall because it's a pretty tall building, as you guys will know. I'm sure many of you have run the staircase at least once. Right, Megan? She's like laughing like, uh-huh.
They have competitions actually where you can run the staircase, kind of like a firefighter type challenge, having you run all 26 floors.
Oh, we know how many floors there are. That's amazing. So yeah.
It's a big one.
It sure is. I remember watching the news that evening. The reporter said, "This is the world's tallest library." And then he proceeded to say, "This is also the world's tallest closed library." Oh, because of the bricks. That's funny. I mean, not funny, comical. How's that? The world's tallest library at the time. Huh. Interesting. board again so I can draw with you. Find my pen, where to put it. All right. So if our building is here. Right. Obviously it's not perfectly straight, but you guys get the idea. Nostalgia. Oh. Glad you're painting with us because now you can always remember the falling brick. That would be funny if you actually put like a little brick down here, you know, or falling off the wall, off the wall. That would be funny. All right, so if this is our canvas, we're going to want about 1/3 of the way up. We're going to want to do a line, and I'll show you. It's not a straight line. It's not an angled line. I start about here and I kind of zigzag it to about here, and then here it's about straight. Okay, so this is how I gently go from lower to higher. So I want you to do that with the baby brush, and you can do it with the brick building color or green even. Let's do it with green, okay? So on your canvas, you're gonna do this zigzag, here, so the zig, right? Zigzag kind of a line, but you're gonna do it about 1/3 of the way up, all right? And that's this line right here that gives you an uneven edge for your water's edge that looks more natural than just a straight line. Okay, so if you run out of paint, that's okay. Let's grab some green because we're gonna now start doing our. So I'm using the baby brush, that real tiny, teeny tiny one, the one that I did these lines with. I washed it really good, dried it off. And now I'm gonna go a little bit further down because again, I'm trying to keep the proportions right, but this one's about 1/3 of the way up. So you're gonna kind of go across, scribble, zigzag up into the right just a little bit. And once you get to about here, it can be perfectly straight across or horizontal. It doesn't have to keep zigzagging all the way up. Over here, it's pretty straight, okay? And that's how you have the edge of a body of water that's kind of sort of curved, kind of, okay? And that's just going to give us sort of a jumping off point so that when we start building our trees, we know what's in the air and what's in the water, okay? So go ahead and put your baby brush in the water. We don't need that anymore. This is just going to delineate, like I said, the sky from the water, all right? So now I'm going to go grab that really funky, how do you do the zigzag? Okay, so let me grab my whiteboard again. I'll do it this way with you. Napkin, hang on. It's not dirty. So zigzag, it's really long and it's really kind of on top of each other. So your zigzag is gonna go, right? Sort of like that, but do it sort of messy. And then once you get to about, you have about 1/3 of it left, that's when it's just gonna go a straight line. And that's gonna give you a nice illusion that your body of water is like this without you drawing a straight line, okay? So like the water's edge is never straight. It's always kind of jagged. Here, I'll show you on the picture if I can. Where are we? I drew it with pencil, okay? So it's like kind of zigzags here. I don't know if you can kind of see just the line. And it zigzags down a little bit, and it's uneven, it's not straight. Okay, so hopefully that will you angle the camera slightly down, please? Yes. That better? Did you want to see the paints? Is that why? Okay, so Gabrielle, did the zigzag help you? Okay, so I did it with green. There you go. All right, so and again, up here, it's kind of straight. Over here, I zigzagged kind of all the way down to here. So now we're going to have the fun part. We're going to channel our inner Bob Ross. I'm just kidding. All right, let me grab. All right, so grab kind of a funky, it's a rounded brush, but this one is an old one. So it's really kind of frayed at the top. It just naturally is frayed. If you have a brand new brush, mess it up a little bit, like kind of fray it a little. Take it apart a little. Be nice with it. I mean, don't go too hard with it, but you're going to want to fray it out a little bit, okay? Rather than having a perfect point, right? You don't want a point. You want it more frayed, okay? Fray it out. And we're going to grab some green. We're going to have a couple different shades of green. So we have green straight out of the bottle. We've got green with a little bit of white in it. And we've got green with a little bit of yellow in it. So we're going to kind of go back and forth because the tree is not one shade of green. It's got multiple colors. But we're first going to start with that straight up green. Okay. And you're going to pounce your color, your paintbrush into it. Kind of get some color in there, get it all in. There you go. And we're going to start right around where the lighter, I think that's the floor, I'm guessing, of the top floor. The tree's about that high, and you're literally just going to pounce. As I'm going, I'm also going to rotate my brush, because if I do the same pounce every time, it's going to look like a stamp, which is really even and perfect. And we don't want that. We want it completely imperfect to look more like leaves. Okay. So this tree is pretty big, comes all the way over halfway through this side of the building. If you want to add a slightly darker green, it's going to be green with brown. So just add a little bit of brown to it. It'll darken it down. You want to lighten it up, add a little bit of yellow or white. Okay, so I'm going to make some areas of it a little bit darker. Okay, and I'm not going to paint a lot of green on this side. I'm going to leave it kind of open so I can put in the yellows, oranges. But I am going to do a lot of green over here. All the way down to my water's edge. And yes, most of your building over here will be covered up. Okay, so let's get some green right to the water's edge. Now the cool thing is, we'll do the water in a minute. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Let's get some more green going here. Some green and yellow, let's see. So I can have some slightly different variations of green. There we go. Some highlights sort of on the tree branches. So there we go. You're also going to want to put, so here's my green. You can see some lighter areas, some darker areas. I'm going to leave this open for now. But I am going to put some trees over here behind the building. And these I'm going to make a little lighter. So I'm going to take my green and make it with white. Maybe a little yellowy green. Just to make it a little different than this tree in the front. It's too light. Okay. And again, don't forget to rotate your brush so your dots are all different. If you have too much paint on your brush, wipe it off like I'm gonna do right here. I'm gonna grab some darker green. Add that in here. Let's get some green in here, some lighter green. There we go. And again, you're going to have lots of just mushes of green. Nice technical term, a little mushy. You can layer, keep layering. This is the fun part about this. Even after our time together, if you want to just keep adding more and adding more and adding more, you absolutely can. You know, you're going to know how to. So I'm adding just a little bit of highlights to some of the branches, just a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see it's kind of light, kind of dark. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit of green over here, far away. And you can go right up to that line. You can even go over the line a little bit. We just wanted to give us that zigzag line just to give us sort of the idea of where to go to. But at the very end, it's going to kind of disappear into the whole thing. Okay, so there's some green, different shades of green in front of our building, behind our building over here, off to the side over there. This tree here is yellow with a little bit of green. So, but it's take your green and add yellow to it. So it's more of an olive, really. Well, it depends on what shade of green you're working with. Okay, so like this is another shade of green. How's that? I keep forgetting you don't have the exact paint brand that I have. I mean, you might, but some of you probably don't, which is fine. It's not a big deal that you don't. I'm just used to having people in class with me and I know they have the exact same paint brand, so I can kind of direct them appropriately, but all good. Make do with what we have, right? Okay. So that one's kind of more of a chartreuse kind of green, I guess. And I'm going to wash my brush. Whoop, don't fall, don't fall. Actually, before we get into doing our yellows and oranges, I'm going to do the green in the water with you, I think. Bring it up close. Yes. Sorry, just noticed that. It's a hot mess of dots. Literally just smushes right on the canvas. There's nothing perfect about it. And that's kind of what adds to the painterly quality of it, I guess. Okay, a hot mess. You're welcome. Okay, so as above, so below, same thing. But this time, once you put down your green dots in the mirror image, right? So I'm going to leave this kind of space here, down here in the water. I want you to have your daddy brush at the ready, your big, fat, flat brush, because once we do our dots down here of green, I'm going to have you just put a couple of lines left and right through it. Okay, you're going to basically be dragging paint a little bit. It's going to be pushing it, and that's what's going to give it some of the illusion that it's in water. Okay, so I will show you. I'm going to start with my green, exactly how I did this. I'm going to do it down here, and I don't even have to do it as much down here, like as thick, but I'm going to try to get similar shape to what I have up there. All right. Right up to the water's edge there. And maybe I'll add a little bit of lights in there, kind of mimicking those lights up top, the highlights, I mean. Oops. And rotate your brush around in a circle, making sure we don't get the same impression of paint every time. so kind of get some green going on down here. And this is while it's wet, switch your brushes. Okay, switch your brushes. You're gonna take your big fat brush. This is very important to go left and right. Make sure you don't go on an angle. Make sure you're not gonna go in a smile. You're gonna go perfectly horizontal, left and right. And like I said, you're gonna drag your paint a little bit outside of, and again, you're not gonna do a lot, just a couple. I'm gonna show you. You're gonna interrupt it just a little bit, okay? You guys wanna look at the camera on how I dragged some of that paint left and right. I interrupted it. So anytime we do a set of colors while it's wet, we're gonna drag our Big Daddy brush through it, okay? All right, so we did that section of green. I'm now gonna do this green over here. Pick up this yellowy green and try to get a similar shape, mirror image into the water. Again, don't worry about the water's edge at the moment. We'll come back and redefine it later. But now while the paint is still wet, I'm gonna grab my daddy brush, clean and dry, and I'm gonna drag some paint or some lines through it, interrupt it. Just a little bit, okay? Didn't have a lot of paint to smudge and smear on that side, but I still did it, okay? I'm gonna do the same process. I need another napkin. Same process on this side. Grab my, oh, too light, darker. Just a little bit. Okay. There it is over there. Just a little bit. We're going to do the same process with the yellow. And again, eventually the orange with a little bit of red on it too. Same exact thing, what you just did, just going to repeat, okay? So I'm going to do the yellow. Wash my brushes really, really good, right? Dry them off. So back to that really fluffy, rounded brush. We're going to do some yellow. Now the yellow is a pale yellow. It's like a hay grass, like a burned out grass, right? So it's going to be yellow with a little bit of white to it. Or I should say white with a little bit of yellow to it. You can also add a smidge of the brown in there to kind of tone it down a little bit. If you're using a yellow that's like a, what I like to refer to as like Crayola yellow, right? The bright yellow that comes in the crayon box. If it's too bright, you can tone it down with a little bit of brown. So you have more of a wheat color, which is what I did here. So I had yellow and white. Now I'm just adding a little bit of that brown in here. So it just, again, just tones it down a little bit, okay? I'm going to do some grass over here. So just a couple little lines going up. Now, the trick for grass is all in your pressure. How hard are you pushing it against the canvas? If you push hard, you're going to have a real thick line. You push very, very lightly and you're just using the tips, you'll have a nice thin line, okay? So it's all in the pressure you do. So very, very light pressure. You can have some grass coming up here, and then you're going to have some grass going in your water too. So left and right a little bit. Very, 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 very light pressure, okay? Very light. There's right over here. I went up, and then I went just a little bit left and right in the water. Now my trees, on the other hand, I'm going to dot like I did my green. And if my green is not completely dry, that's okay. It's going to be really cool. It's going to blend in with this yellow. Right, so some of my trees will have sort of a yellowy green, which is neat. Maybe I'll put a little bit of brighter yellow in there as we go. There we go. So I got that pale yellow. I got the bright yellow. I'm going to go across the whole thing, almost all the way over. That bright yellow color. Leaves a little bit of room for that orangey reddish tree. I'll show you that in a second. Toning down my yellow a little bit with some brown, because it's a little too bright for me down here. There we go. So it sort of has an orangey color down here. Okay, now I'm going to go into the water a little bit, put some yellow down in here. Not a lot. I'm going to let some blue show through, but I want some yellow down here that I'm going to streak through here in a second. Okay, so remember, while it's wet, take your Big Daddy brush and go left and right. Drag through it just a little bit. Or you can even do it with that little fine baby brush. But whatever it is, you need to do very thin, straight, horizontal lines, okay? So there's my yellow that I kind of pulled through. Ripples on the water. Okay. While I have this yellow on my brush, making sure, oh, this one is green on it too. If you have just yellow on your brush, you can pick up an ever so little bit of red, okay? So red is the strongest, most powerful color in the paints that I have. In most paints, it takes over your color very, very, very quickly. So when you're mixing an orange, have a pile of yellow on your palette, I'll show you, and then you pull in ever so little, like a pin size amount of red. So I like to say, whatever you're doing, do 98% yellow and 2% red. That's how little you need, okay? So if this is my pile, I'm gonna grab a big chunk of yellow, put it over here, okay? Watch how little I need. You see how little? See if we can see that, okay? Watch, it's gonna take over really, really fast. And I start on the side, and if I have to pull more yellow in, I'll pull more yellow in, but that's about perfect for my orange that I want. So I'm going to start with orange in here, this orange tree. And I'm going to kind of push it into that yellow tree too a little bit. I want to tone down that yellow. Actually, I'm going to make my orange a little darker, a little bit at a time. But that's how you mix your orange, okay? Start with a big chunk of yellow, ever so little bit of red, and go from there. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna keep adding to get several shades of orange up to red. I'm gonna keep adding just a very, very minute amount of the orange and red to the orange. Oh, picked up green. If you pick up green, wash your brush because you don't want orange and green. They won't look good together. You want to add some red, ever so little bit up and in here. Okay. There's sort of a little bit of red going in the orange area. We're going to do the same thing in the water, right? So I have my orange on my brush, that yellowy orange. I'm going to put some in the water. And once I do, I'm going to go left and right to interrupt it. But it's better to start and do very little amounts of red first, because red can take over your painting really quickly. Okay, so once you get that down, a couple of little streaks through it, interrupt it. And that's all we need to do for that. Hopefully, I'm not going too fast for you guys. We're going to put a couple of tree trunks in here and then finish up the water. But I want to make sure you guys are okay. So I'm going to stop for a minute and see if you guys want to let me know how you're doing. If you're almost done with your trees, you need more time. A couple more minutes for the trees. Thanks. Yeah, perfect. You're good. This is my first time teaching this one, so don't quite have a gauge on timing. Hopefully I haven't gone too fast for you guys. You can always rewind later. Listen to me rewind. You can tell how old I am. You can go back once you get the video. Did I wake you? I'm sorry. And you want my napkin? No, it's not for puppies. Sorry. one more minute and get going. Hopefully you'll be caught up. The cool thing about this painting though is that even though I might go on and do the next step, you can always go back and add more layers to your trees because there's nothing on top of them. Nothing's going to stop you from coming back over here and dotting more color. Even if we do a couple of tree branches in there, which there's only a couple, you can always paint over them or paint them back in if you lose them. Okay, so tree branches. So we have one kind of darker brown one here, and I pulled a couple. While they look like they might be white, they're really not. They're this color, that real pale pink kind of brick color, or a pale brown if you have brown. And it's just a couple. I don't know if you guys can, hopefully you can see it. All right, so just a little, I call it like, they're like little scratches is what I call them. Little tiny, teeny tiny, real thin little, just a hint of a line. It doesn't, like this one here, you just see a little miniature line. You don't see the rest of it. You just see that part of the tree popping through. Same thing down here. You just see a little bit popping through, okay? And I only did it pretty much right in here. I didn't do it over here on the edges. Okay, so that's gonna be the baby brush, that real tiny detailed brush. Napkin. What happens when you buy cheap paper towels? You go through them like crazy. All right. So I'm gonna make, because my brown is really like a reddish brown, brick brown, I'm going to make a darker brown by taking that brick color and mixing it with green. So I don't know if you guys know this, but if you mix complementary colors together, so colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, red and green are opposite. I do this with my kids. So what are the color of the, what are the Lakers colors? And gold and purple, right? Like yellow and purple. Those are complementary colors. What about the Denver Broncos? Those are blue and orange. Those are also complementary colors. And then of course, Christmas colors. So that's how I get my kids to remember complementary colors by sports teams and holidays. Anyway, so because I'm working with a really kind of reddish brown, I'm going to add some green to it to make it more of a darker brown or more of a tree trunk kind of brown, OD kind of brown. And I'm just going to pull a very thin line up. And again, pay attention to your pressure. It almost looks like the window, doesn't it? I did a little bit more pressure at the bottom, less pressure as I got to the top. So what that did, if you watch here, I did more pressure down here. By the time I got up here, I was way out here, right? So I'm doing this sort of a thing. So as it's coming up, it's coming off the canvas slowly, and it creates a point at the top of my tree trunk, okay? So hopefully you guys can see this. Heavy pressure and then light pressure, and you'll get more of a point at the top. Hopefully you guys can see that, okay? That's the trick, is the pressure you use on your hand. Maybe I'll add a couple of little bit of twigs, little bit of branches kind of here and there. And then I'm going to, I don't like that one, I'm gonna wipe it off. And then I'm gonna put some white into it later. Okay, so I'm gonna do that brown color with white. I'm going to drag a couple of, I guess they're like birch trees over there, through the yellow and the orange, kind of. But again, just in some areas, not everywhere. Just a couple of little lines. And if you don't like them, wipe them right off. You don't have to have them in there, okay? This is what I did for this one. Or you can add some more dots, colored dots on top of them to kind of make them disappear a little bit, okay? So maybe I'll add a little bit of a little thin one here. Again, very light pressure. Okay, just a couple. You don't need a lot. What, honey? And now for the rest of this painting, I like to do it with not quite the baby brush, but more of this one. So gotta go. Want me to email our paintings? Yes, please, 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 please. I want to see a picture of all of them. Thank you, Megan. All right, so the last bit is to do that zigzag line again, and then we're gonna add some blue streaks across our water. So Curtis, that's the last two steps. You can watch the video again to see what it is, but it's really simple. All right, so grab your brown that you just made, that darker brown, right? Mine is that red with green in it, this brown here of my tree. And I'm gonna do my zigzag, really messy zigzag as I'm going kind of up. And I'm gonna split, again, the water from the land. And it's not gonna be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect, okay? I want it to be really kind of messy. Just one little line. Just kind of like a shadow of where the water's edge is, okay? You're welcome, Curtis. Thanks for joining us, okay? And now the last step is to do some more of these horizontal blue lines. Wash your brush really good. Dry it off really good. Now, even though this line is kind of on an angle, my shoreline, all of my water is going to be perfectly horizontal. You're welcome, Jensen. Can't wait to see your pictures. All right, so I'm going to grab some blue, sometimes some blue that's mixed with white, so lighter blue. Right now I'm going to grab a medium blue. And I'm literally just going to go very lightly, left and right. Very lightly, light pressure going over some of my colors in the water. Okay. Light pressure, blue, very light pressure going over all of the trees and the reflections basically. Okay. And I'm going to do a slightly darker up near the water's edge here. It's okay if you run out of paint. I ran out of paint a while ago and I'm just kind of